Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for your support for our first episode of our podcast. It was amazing. It was quite a few long read comments as we requested. We're going to probably go through them in a moment.
Yeah.
But today we want to announce the topic for today's theme, inspired by the my beautiful wife who spent a lot of time answering comments in my TikTok for the people who were, let's just say, slightly misinformed.
It's not only your TikTok. It's like the whole social
Everywhere.
media, the whole internet is flooded with misinformation,
Yeah.
and
We are here to fix this.
yeah,
Fighting.
Mythbusters.
Yeah, yeah. So the idea and the topic that we want to talk about today is Ukrainians in Canada.
Yeah.
Top 3 most popular misinformations that people believe, considering our,
Like way
view. Like
the
as
way
we as we
Ukrainians-
see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I've been seeing so much lately with all those elections coming and all those
elections
fights
is-
about between liberals and conservative party and everything.
Do we want to go through the comments first?
And
Like
the
just
first
a couple of them.
yeah, sure.
For the first
Yeah.
episode, you're gonna read it because I read so
he
bad.
can't read. Okay.
Yeah, especially in English.
Oh.
Oh, hold on. So we had if you didn't watch the first episode, we discussed the very hot topic for us. It was rental versus owning a place. And if you didn't see it, go check it out. But some people left a couple of very cool comments.
What do you guys? Brian Given's YouTube asks, what do you guys think about savings rate for normal Canadians and Americans? I think people from Ukraine probably live modestly compared to Americans. I save aggressively for retirement and the home, something like 30% of my income. Typical Americans are somewhere around 3 to 5% if anything. What do Ukrainians do? Yeah, like do you save money? Like from
Do
your
we save
income,
money?
do you put away?
No, I have a wife.
He gave up saving when he married me, but anyways, well, saving money is, of course, an important part of Ukrainian culture. You need to be smart with money. And I think it comes from
don't think
years and
yeah.
years of insecurity, instability in economy. So, it really depends. Same with with attitude to housing, to education, to savings. It really depends on the situation in the family. My parents used to be very frugal, and they are still now, although they're financially doing absolutely great. I don't remember my parents splurging or on anything or buying expensive brands or expensive stuff even when they could. They were always saving money as much as they can. So I'm talking about my situation. My parents bought whatever is needed and saved the rest. Some months it's more money, some months it's less.
Yeah, I'll just add this a new comment.
Okay.
I'll just add that we probably like hearing that someone saves 30% is a lot.
It's incredible.
It is. Yeah,
It's
it
awesome.
is. I would call
I
it.
want to be you.
I would call it aggressive as well, but I kind of feel like you don't have 4 kids. That's first. And you haven't moved a lot from house to house and country to country over ocean,
On the other hand, if the leftover 70% covers your needs, then why not?
Yeah, no,
Regardless of
that's
how many kids
smart.
you have,
My
right?
point is that we are throughout the whole married life of 18 years.
Almost.
Almost 18 years. We tried, and sometimes we succeeded saving some amount of money, but usually we would spend it on, another renovation.
Or
But-
vacation.
Yeah, or vacation. But what else do you save for? Like, it's a good topic to talk about retirement.
Well, it's considered in Canada, and I read it somewhere that in Canada and America, it's recommended to have a 6 months and savings in the amount of your 6 months expenses. So whatever you would spend in 6 months, including your like mortgage, utility bills, grocery, foods, you count how much you need for a month, multiplied by 6, and that's your savings, like deposit
Reliable, right?
that you don't touch. And that will cover you in case like you lose a job, something happens to your
But-
house, a crisis in the world. So you have 6 months covered.
Why did you specify that Canada and America? Isn't that applicable to any country?
I've never heard this advice back in Ukraine.
Yeah, I've heard like it's
This is the advice that like English speaking financial advisors talk about.
It's a
for some reason.
successful success. People usually talk about things like that. You have to have a, they call it a financial pillow.
Yeah.
Financial
Well,
pillow.
it makes
Like,
sense. I want to have it.
Yeah,
It
me
makes-
too.
Yeah,
But
it
I'm
makes
married.
life easier.
I'm kidding.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. But yeah, it's good for you if you're saving 30%.
This is amazing.
Yeah, we envy you. But whenever we save something, then we decide that, hey, we're saving for 3 years, but we haven't gone to a vacation for 3 years. Then
Yeah.
why would you save these money for?
Another comment. Over time, home values go up. Over time, your income rises while mortgage payment stays the same over the term. So mortgage grows less painful over the time.
Perfect conditions. Yeah.
Well, that's good. I bought my first house for $40,000 in 1984. This is like dirt cheap, but also you could buy like in 80s you could buy home in Ukraine for that amount too.
Yeah, and remember I said that we hate you? We hate
No,
people like
we
you.
don't.
No, I mean, if you bought a house in 1984, it should,
40 years ago.
I was born in 2 years, so you're probably a mature person. Then I'm just kidding. We're not hating you, but we envy you very much.
But also, he says that today the same house can be sold for over 400,000. Growth of home equity is a winning strategy. Buy land, they don't make it anymore. I fully support that. And also, if you look back, our house will be worth more in 40 years if it will be still standing.
I don't know. We need to move to our topic, but I still want to
Yeah.
say another idea that I've heard online just recently, which is applicable both for US and Canada, that you never own.
Why?
You never own when
do you
you
mean?
well while you paying a mortgage, bank owns your house, right? But even if you paid it off completely, you're still paying land tax, or
Okay.
how's it called?
Property tax.
Property tax.
Yeah.
And what happens if you don't?
I don't know.
They seize your ownership, like they take the house
Really?
from you. Yes. So you still kind of like own your house is not your house. Someone can take it illegally from you even if you paid it 100%.
There is something like property tax back in Ukraine, but we figured it out only after like 15 years of owning.
Because they came up with this law like recently.
And in Ukraine,
New-
if
new
you own
tax.
it, you own it.
Yeah.
Nothing can happen.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but here, that's what I've heard, that if you don't pay property tax, of course, if you don't pay any tax, they will find you
And take it away.
yeah.
Write in the comments if that's true.
Yeah, but that's.
But I
very
believe in
cool.
paying off the house. I commented on this comment too. I believe in paying off because the faster you pay off, the less money you pay the bank. Like, the faster you pay off your mortgage, the less bank earns on your mortgage. So you don't want to give them more than you want to.
There's a huge comment. Last one we want
Yeah.
to reply. You replied here, but I didn't even finish this comment. Do you remember what it's all about?
No, I don't, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, at least we answered you online. So, anyways, thanks, guys. Thanks a lot. We're gonna read like every new episode. We're gonna read like 2 or 3 comments from the previous episode. So if you'll have anything to say about this topic, just go ahead and leave a comment. So, back to the main idea. Being here in Canada for 2.5 years, I've heard many lies, which is probably a bad idea to call it lies, because people
It's
sometimes,
misinformation.
non-intentionally say those things because they've heard it somewhere. It's better to say it, call it misinformation
Yeah.
regarding Ukrainians who came to Canada after the war had started. And I think we will go through some of them, but top three. What would you say top three misinformation that you've heard about Ukrainians here in Canada?
The first thing is that I just have to say that even though Ukrainians are called refugees in Canada, Ukrainians do not have a refugee status.
That's technically
being called a refugee and having a legal status as
Yeah.
a refugee is two
Different
completely
things.
different things. Like being called a refugee, it's a person who seeks refuge, right? But being a refugee, like having a legal status of refugee in any country, means that you have certain obligations and certain restrictions and rights. So, for example, a refugee in US cannot leave the country.
Yeah, we have a couple of friends Ukrainians who moved to US, and they are in a refugee status.
Yeah, in Canada,
Asylum
a refugee,
seekers.
It's different also. Like,
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
From the point of
Really?
view of the law, asylum seeker and refugee.
So you can
is
be
different.
asylum seeker, refugee,
Protected person.
no, temporary protected
Like
person,
it's some
TPS.
There's like an umbrella
TPS.
term that has all other term underneath it, but we are speaking about refugees. And I think that there is a confusion in this because many years ago when people from Syria, Afghanistan were coming, they had a refugee status, and now like for majority of population, for me too, I never learned any of this information until we found ourselves in a similar situation. I would
Because
also
why
think
won't
that
you?
whoever
Why
comes
would
to
you?
my country from another country with war is a refugee, because there were two other nationalities that came with a refugee status. How is this different from Ukrainians
makes
coming?
sense.
So I think government knowing that Ukrainians are really a hardworking nation. I'm speaking generally because let's be honest, in any nation
You can find any people.
yeah, like Ukrainians are not sane. I hope you understand that. And in Ukraine, there are lazy people. There are people who do scams. There are people who are hardworking. There are people who are honest. Like all kinds of people, like in any country. And most of them who come to Canada, they're also all different. But Ukrainians do not have a refugee status in Canada.
Yeah.
And no Ukrainian can receive that status even if they apply to immigration service, they will be denied.
Yeah. So again, just to sum it up, technically we are refugees because this is the term. You seek refuge somewhere outside your house.
Yeah.
So technically we are refugees, and perhaps we kind of like associated ourselves, especially on TikTok. When I just started it, I was calling myself like Ukrainian refugee, because the reason I did that is because I thought about like technical
it's the understanding
stages
of your situation.
Yeah,
It gives an understanding of the situation.
Description of the situation.
And it totally makes sense. But legally, like from the point of view of the law and immigration status, Ukrainians do not have a refugee status in the country.
What does that mean?
It means that any Ukrainian that comes to Canada since the war started, under the Canadian government launched
CUAET.
Yeah, CUAET. It's Canadian Ukrainian emergency assistance program or pathway, whatever. What it means that Ukrainians went through a simplified process of getting a visitor visa to Canada.
Visitor visa?
That came along with a work permit.
Or study permit for kids.
Or study permit for kids, yes. So Ukrainians got either a visitor visa and a work permit, or work visa and a work permit. So
that's pretty. Just to add, simplify it, those two. And the third one is very important, and we never kind of like hided it. The one-time financial incentive.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
All right.
But from the point of view of law and legal status in Canada, all Ukrainians are not different from any other foreign employee that comes to work in Canada. For example, my dad, he's been working abroad for many, many years in different countries. And when he immigrated first to England, first to Germany, and then to England, and then to Netherlands, he came to those countries with the same type of documents for that country.
Yeah.
So you get a visa that allows you to enter the country, and you get a work permit that allows you to work.
Yeah, it's another way to put it is that if there was no war and it was just a peaceful time and we wanted to immigrate here, eventually we would be aiming to the same status. Temporary visitor, temporary
Like a visitor
resident.
visa is a temporary resident.
Yeah, temporary resident with a work permit. And we have, because I immigrated with a bunch of my colleagues and their families, like I said last week. And, but we had one employee from Canada who's also Ukrainian, but he's been here since 2014, probably, when this
Over 10 years.
Yeah, when this whole conflict started with Russia on east side. And they were from that Donbass area, and they moved right away to Canada. And his family went through this whole process and journey of immigrating in a peaceful and default conditions, where you get to the country, you struggle for first like at least 2 years to get all the permits, all the these work permits, and you survive these 2 years, because it used to be very difficult to immigrate to Canada. In my growing up, I knew only when I started, to be interested in things like that, I knew that the most difficult it is to immigrate to UK, then probably to US, and then Canada. Those three, like, and I'm not sure if it was Canada first or US first, but it was very difficult. Now, and my employee, he always like explains, you guys came here and you didn't experience any immigration at all. Like, no, like, it's not a usual process.
We're talking about that. Like I said, they simplified the process. So earlier, if you want to immigrate and work in a company in Canada and you come from another country, like, you need to find an employer that will invite you as a foreign employee, and it will give you a closed work permit that allows you to work only in this company. So what Canadian government did, they gave Ukrainians open work permit that allows Ukrainians to come and look for a job from inside of the country. That makes it easier. Of course, the processing times in the beginning, they were like, we got our visa. We applied for Canadian visa even before this program started. So technically, we
just applied for visitors.
Yeah, we just applied for a visitor visa and then decided that we will come and apply for work permit and everything. And then once we got our visa, governments started this work permit program. So we came here. When we landed in Canada, we already had a work permit. So basically, nothing different from what was 10 years ago. Is just government just made it quicker and simpler to help more workforce come here. I know many people say that, like, immigrants come and take our jobs. I have many years of experience in influencer marketing, social media marketing. I've been doing this with my husband for many years. I can do a lot of stuff. I was not able to find a job within my field of expertise, but I was able to find a job at Winners, which I love because I really enjoy it. I've never worked in a store before. That's an entry-level position with a minimum wage. But from our personal experience, it is not easier for an immigrant to find a job in Canada, even if we have a work permit or
Most of my people I know from Ukraine who came to Canada, they work on way lower level positions that they used to work in Ukraine. Like, like I said, I came with a bunch of colleagues, but their spouses, uh, sometimes they don't know the language, sometimes they know the language, and they still, in general, work
Struggle
on
finding it.
lower level positions that they used to work in Ukraine, just because it's really hard to find a job. But
And employers, 99% of the time, prefer Canadian
yeah,
employees. So I don't know, maybe it's different in other provinces or other cities, but from our experience in the GTA area, it feels like Canadian employers prefer Canadian employees,
yeah, and
which is good.
just
Like, I totally get it. I understand.
just to add, that in peaceful times, whenever you wanted to apply for work permit being outside of Canada, you had to, like, first of all, you had to do it being out yet. You get a permission from your employer to, you get a visa from your employer, but this employer can get this permit only when this employer, Canadian company, proves to immigration services that there's no way to find a Canadian employee for this position.
For the same level of
And
expertise,
yeah,
skills, knowledge, and
yeah,
everything.
they've tried, and they have to prove that they've tried,
Yeah.
failed, and that's why they're bringing a person
From
from
overseas.
abroad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was almost insane, insanely impossible to get here back then. So yeah, this is, just to wrap it up. We're not refugees. We just get a work permit and simplified work permit. Also, what was simplified is a driver's license. Usually takes a couple of years to get, for a Canadian person to get a full
No,
G.
not a couple years. A year.
Well,
G1 to G2 is a year. Oh, and then G2 to G, another year.
another something. We don't know. Like, okay, let
Yeah,
it
2
be a
years.
year or more. In our case, if we prove the experience of driving experience, we have a proof of driving experience
Over 2 years.
Over 2 years, yeah. It was a matter of completing this knowledge test, yeah, and then just have all these other tests, drive tests with the instructor right away. So there was no time frame.
Yeah,
it was easier.
We could take the G1 and then G right away without the waiting time.
Yeah.
So the first myth we were talking about, to summarize,
Refugees.
Ukrainians don't have a refugee status. Ukrainians have a work permit that allows us to work, which puts us in a position no different than any other international employee coming to Canada, with the only difference, I would say, we have an open work permit that allows Ukrainians to find a job anywhere and change jobs. And that's it.
And also very important, this whole program was announced that it will be available within
2 years.
2 years. So when we came here, no, like the permit is 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we came here, we knew that in 3 years we would be obligated to leave.
Yeah.
So
it's limited.
Yeah, limited.
Well, they kept extending it, and right now.
But I'm saying, what was on our minds when we came here?
Yeah. So
we are coming here for 3 years, and we don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, we were given a 3-year time frame to either make sure we do everything we can to build a life here, immigrate through standard immigration programs and become permanent residents, or leave. So they did not give any
till this
immediate
day,
permanent residence to any Ukrainian that came in, or like, I don't know, crazy status that gives us more benefits than anyone else.
Till this day, there's no special pathway for obtaining permanent residency for Ukrainians who came here.
No, there is a family reunion program, but that's a different thing.
Yeah, that's for those who already have relatives here.
Yeah.
It's always easier if you have a relative who is a citizen or a permanent resident to kind of like
a family reunion.
Reunion and get all these documents. But for those who came after the war started under this CUAET program, there's still no easier way. It's a general pathway, like choose from whatever you
Yeah,
think.
standard immigration programs, and like whatever you qualify for, you go through the program that you qualify for. We went through humanitarian and compassionate pathway. This is a standard immigration program. Ukrainians with kids and with kids with disabilities qualify for this program. We could have immigrated through express entry.
Yeah.
That's an immigration program for professionals immigrating, like saying, hey, I work, I earn money, I am this, I am an awesome specialist.
Hey, that's how much tax I pay.
No, like I'm a great specialist. Look how well my English is, how much money I
How
earn.
much tax you pay?
How Okay, express entry. Just Google it and see.
They want your tax.
But
No.
you've been paying tax all your life.
Yes. No.
Get over
That's
it.
a good thing. I'm not
I don't mind paying
complaining.
taxes.
Yeah, I don't complain.
So, we've been saying like I think it might feel like we're not happy with the way Ukrainians are immigrating to Canada, but don't get us wrong. I believe that giving a person a work permit and an opportunity to work and choose from all the available works in the country, jobs in the country, is better than giving a person a refugee status, putting them on a government paycheck, prohibiting them from work or limiting their work, and just feeding them. Because the way they did the pathway for Ukrainians to immigrate was like, you can come, but you have to make sure you can provide for yourself because we're not babysitting you. And I think this is right because it filters out those who can come and become
That's a bad choice
a
of
leech
words.
on the system, right?
Bad choice of words, filtering out. But
Yeah,
I like how how our friend said, thank God they didn't put people on monthly payments for Ukrainians who came here, just because it made it made it made it I don't know how to explain it. Because of that rule, only those Ukrainians who wanted and knew that you need to work
and are ready to work and
they
want
came.
to work.
Just because there's another example, Germany, who still to this day, from the first day of the war, they invite Ukrainians as well as any other country to come and apply for this special status out there. I don't know the name, but they are paying pretty okay money monthly, and that ensured that a lot of Ukrainians came there who specifically knew that they do not want to work.
This is a bad idea.
They want to come there and wait until the war is over and then come back. Or
this is a solution for those who leave Ukraine temporarily.
Yeah,
I would say Canadian solution was for those Ukrainians who decided to leave Ukraine permanently.
And even the fact of the distance between Canada and Ukraine and Germany and Ukraine, or Poland, even Poland, it more or less lets you think that, hey, I'm like few hours and I'm back home in Ukraine, like 10 hours. It's not
10 hours, like 5 hours and you can be in Germany.
From Germany, it's less than 10 hours. Like 10 hours, it's fly from Canada. But it's still psychologically to get a ticket and fly and pack your stuff, and it's way more difficult than jump in a car and drive home. Yeah, that's why people who came overseas over ocean is more preferably will stay for
Yes, but I also hear so many people who came, they struggled for a year and a half. It's very hard for Ukrainians, it's very hard to rent, to find the first rent, because we come here, we don't have credit score, we don't have any credit history in the country. Many Ukrainians, I'm not saying most, like one of our friends once said it really well, that Ukrainians were not running away from poverty in Ukraine. Ukrainians were running away from war, which is a huge difference because many Ukrainians came here from really good financial conditions back in Ukraine, and they came with money, with some of them even brought their cars with them. And like when you come with money, with ability to pay rent like a year ahead, and you come and you rent one bedroom basement apartment because no one else would trust you to rent anything better, and you have
That's
to start
insane.
like
What is?
I've heard people say like, oh, immigrants start taking our housing. I have not experienced that because I know for sure that it is way easier for Canadians to rent a home than it is for a Ukrainian or any other
I
immigrant.
don't understand the idea of immigrants taking our homes completely. Like,
No,
we are immigrants and we bought this house.
yes, I think
Are
it's just because the number of homes
yeah.
is smaller than the number of
So
people trying to get a home, either rent or buy. So, for example, there's 100 houses
yeah, I
and
understand.
there's 5,000
So
people.
you think that if we wouldn't buy this house, some
Canadian would buy it.
inherently Canadian people would buy it, and another immigrant family wouldn't take their house.
I would say it. I'd say this
That's
aspect
stupid.
of home housing is more talking. It's talking more about rent, because renting, like for
Okay.
example, this
Renting
year I
that
found zero real estate pieces for rent
in our area.
in our area. Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, it's not true. If they mean renting, then
I think
we're
renting.
telling the case for our family and our families we know, and probably in the Ukrainians in general. It is freaking hard to get to rent a place, because you have to have all these different like proofs, and people still like, oh, you're like those, these and these nationalities that it will be impossible to
Yeah.
evict
I don't
them.
think it
Like,
depends on nationality. It just depends on whether you pay rent or not. I've seen.
no, I'm mentioning this just because they have the probably experience in other refugees and people who came here because of some conflicts. They have bad experience renting their places
I've
to
seen
the.
bad cases with not paying rent, even in Canadian citizens,
Yeah,
personally.
yeah.
So
So
I don't think it matters. But yeah, so the first myth was that Ukrainians don't have refugee status. The second myth that we hear often, it's not directed directly to us, but it kind of hurts to see and read it, and being like unified with the whole piece of immigration population. People say that Ukrainian refugees take money and are on monthly support. This is not true, first of all, because Ukrainians don't have a refugee status. If you don't have a refugee status, you do not qualify for monthly support from government. Ukrainians,
it's insane. It's insane how many people don't know that.
please educate yourself. It is important because me personally, I would hate to be a leech on the system. I prefer to pay taxes because I see where my taxes go. We have a special needs child. Our kids go to school. We don't pay for school. We don't pay for school bus. We don't pay for
Healthcare.
healthcare. I see where our taxes go, and I want to work. I like the fact that our family pays taxes because these taxes pay the services that we use. We probably, some months we use more than we pay taxes, some months we use less than we pay taxes, but in the end it's
You
like
always
a
want to
closed
pay
circle.
less taxes.
But Ukrainians do not have a monthly allowance from government. Ukraine, although like there are like Ontario Works, the social, like there are benefits, like financial support people can apply for when they lose a job,
Or
like
they,
unemployment
if
financial
they,
support or something.
if a single mother gonna come here with two children, she can probably apply for low wage support. Like
I'm not sure.
if she's the only one working and she's earning not enough money, she can probably apply for something.
I think it will require her to live in the country for a certain amount of time, and also like child benefit. Ukrainians, just like any
child
other
benefit is another story.
Okay. So I know that I've read recently that there is a resettlement assistance program that gives refugees and protected persons a certain monthly allowance. We don't have that. Ukrainians don't qualify for that. Ukrainians don't qualify for anything that refugees qualify for. We only qualify for things that any other employee in the country would qualify for. Although
the only exception is that when we came, and whenever anyone came under this CUAET program, they were qualified. Yeah, they were paid one-time pay support, kind of like support payment in amount of $3,000 per adult.
Yeah.
And $1,500 for a child.
Yeah.
So in our case, we have 4 children and 2 adults. We got a huge
$12,000
chunk that went straight away as a down payment for a car.
Not everything went as a down payment. We had $10,000 as a down payment, and then $2,000 we used for to buy furniture for the house that the first house that we rented in Canada. But I calculate. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. I calculated at some point that we paid off those money in taxes within the first probably 6 or 8 months.
It's not really fair to say, because here's how those commenters think. That's their thought process. Here's a Canadian who lived here since
and they didn't get anything.
So they were born here and they're like 40 years old. And here's Simon, came here almost 40 freaking years old. And they both work, they both pay taxes, and then whoop, Simeon gets the huge chunk.
Yes.
That's not fair. That's their idea.
I understand that.
Yeah, but I usually think about it and I'm like, yeah, it totally makes sense to feel that it's unfair.
Yeah.
But there are like it's like I read it. Someone said it is like you're looking at macroeconomics with a microeconomics view. So having me in this country paying taxes and working has a long term effect, way better than pay in terms of everyone and any particular Canadian overall. It's better to have more immigrants, pay them to help them start their journey in this country, and then everyone who's here legally and working will should have,
because there will be more people paying taxes.
Yeah, should feel better and see positive changes in economics. That's how that idea works. But
I understand it, but still, like, I understand the frustration that people get also.
Yeah, but like I don't know if it's just me. I don't know. I never been in this kind of situation, but I imagine myself in Ukraine, and then war happens somewhere in Middle East, right? And then bunch of, or like not Middle East,
Anywhere. It
like
doesn't
let's
matter.
imagine.
Anywhere.
No, it'll be easier to imagine like in Spain, and people from Spain, which is like not a third world, because when we're talking about Middle East, like except United Emirates, like usually you think about like not really wealthy countries.
Yeah.
But maybe people think about Ukraine as a not really
It's
wealthy
not a
country.
wealthy country.
Yeah. But let's imagine you're being in Ukraine, and then war happens somewhere in Spain, and huge crowds of Hispanics comes to Ukraine, and you would realize that Ukrainian government pays them what would be equivalent back home in Ukraine in hryvnias, like I don't know,
Maybe 100,000 grand.
100,000 hryvnias.
Yeah. Like a few $1,000s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think I wouldn't be like any like envy or mad about it.
I think I would be okay with it
if I
that
saw like
meant, if that meant that those people come, they get the
work.
support, but they work, they pay it off in taxes.
They respect the culture.
Yes,
they
assimilate. They do their best to become the part of the community. So I think it really depends on how those people who are getting the support are paying back the community and the country they were given the support.
I'll say that, to be completely honest with you, and we just started this podcast with the information that you can find any people, any kind of people, any quality of people. And to be completely fair, even we know people, Ukrainians, who came here,
took the financial support
and left. And they counted like, hey, the plane ticket costs this much if I come and I will rent Airbnb for a week to just
apply. Have a free hotel for 2 weeks.
Or they used to had a free hotel for 2 weeks or so. So I apply here for a free housing for like few weeks, and then I apply for all these things. I get all the documents, I get the support. I take a
this is embarrassment.
Back. Yeah,
this is honestly an embarrassment, because whenever I see posts in social media, this Ukrainian family came over to my house, they stayed with me in the basement for 3 months, and now I cannot evict them, they refuse to leave. Or they came, they took the money and went back. I read it and I feel embarrassed, because I'm Ukrainian too, and they're Ukrainian too, and after that horrible experience, I will be looked...
It still applies to you too.
Yeah, I will be looked at as a person who would do the same. But...
yeah, it just proves the point that you can find any kind of people anywhere. Most of these people will tell you that they came just because... remember, we said that this program has an expiration date, and if
you get a work permit.
Yeah, if you didn't come here to apply for these documents, but you had a visa, like everyone got a visa at some point, but it was a matter of crossing the border to get these permits and be eligible for all these things for 3 years, right? But people didn't know if they want to live where they lived back then. Like, for example, a lot of people moved to Germany or Poland, and then they just round tripped to Canada to pick to win some, like, considering that you get if 2 adults come,
it's $6,000.
$6,000. 2,000 was the tickets. At least 1,000 you're gonna spend here because you want to see Niagara Falls, you want to eat ice cream, and then
they still went back with a bunch of money.
Yeah, you coming back with easily $3,000-$4,000, and that's sad, but that's what happens sometimes.
In this situation, I really feel embarrassed for being associated with that kind of people, that quality of Ukrainians.
Sorry, but what I was saying that usually all these people will say that their initial reason of coming here wasn't to get money. It was just
get a work permit.
To get a permit. Yeah.
Don't get the money if it wasn't your idea the whole time.
But if they're giving money, why wouldn't you take it?
They're not giving. It's a settlement money. It's specifically money for buying the furniture. because
Initial
guys,
stuff.
like in Ukraine, you can rent a fairly
Yeah,
furnished
usually
home.
that's actually a
And
very
here
interesting.
you come into a completely empty space. I love Habitat for Humanity, Mission Thrift Store, Value Village.
No,
I
just
live
to
there. I'm a citizen of those stores.
just to expand on that, that in Ukraine, anything you rent, you have everything to
Yeah.
live. Like you have
Not the bed sheets though. Like you bring your stuff, but
yeah, but
you
you
have
have
the
a couch, you have
couches,
a bed, you have everything for
mattresses
kitchen,
and
you have
pillows, even. Yeah.
yeah, you don't when you move from house to house renting, you pick up your luggages. Like
Yeah,
you don't
like your
pick up your
suitcases.
you don't pick up
Whole
your
household.
furnitures.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So those were money for settlement. To go buy a couch, go buy, I don't know, a basic car, or like cover your immediate needs, like for clothing and stuff, because we were very lucky to bring 6 suitcases of stuff with us. Many people, because the home that we left was still intact and we had all our stuff, and we had it sent to us to Poland, and then we brought some of it with us. But many people left Ukraine, like they
With what
woke
they
up in the
have,
morning,
as is.
yeah, as is, like wearing only stuff they had. So they came to Canada with 1 or 2 suitcases for a family of 5 or 6. Of course, they need money to buy stuff, and at least to go to work, you need to buy a bike, like
Also,
basic stuff. So I get it, but I absolutely do not support, and I think there should be consequences for people who came, for Ukrainians who came to Canada, took money, and left. I think there should be consequences.
Yeah.
That would be fair.
Yeah, probably, yeah. I also will add that it's important to get a, helicopter view for
Helicopter.
to this money, because for those people who think like, oh, you should have came here and didn't get any money, just know your conditions. Like if you able to afford living in Canada right away and you have some savings, then come and okay. But if you're coming and waiting that
With
someone's
empty
gonna
pockets.
pay for you for settlement, right? So think about it as a reason. The main difference is the reason of coming here is not good. Like
Yeah.
for people who came to Canada before war happened, they didn't get any money.
Yes.
But they planned this and ahead. They saved some money.
Usually
they know,
people were waiting for a few years
Yeah.
to get permission to come to the country, so they knew it's coming sometime soon in the next few
Yeah.
years, so they had time to
Prepare.
save up money and come here with a certain amount of funds to cover that.
But someone will say, I don't care.
Yes.
I don't care.
Of
Someone
course.
someone from Canada would fairly say, I don't care if you're coming here. You're not any better than anyone here who was born here. Just go ahead and work. Yes, but it was emergency. This CUAET is an emergency act. The conditions, even for our family, was emergency. We didn't, for the first year or so, we didn't have access to any of our money.
Yeah.
Almost all of our assets were frozen back home in Ukraine. Thank God we were able to sell it all
Donate,
virtually.
probably.
Yeah, donate, sell it, and then that's what helped us purchase here. But think about it, if in this emergency case, all these Ukrainians came here, or any other country, people from any other country, in case of emergency, came here, and government didn't support them for in any way, like just a regular immigrants, you would be the ones, like not you, because we have elite viewers of our podcast, but people in TikTok would be complaining how much
people.
more homeless people happened in Canada.
But that also happens now. I've read the news, like a few months ago there was a huge spike in homelessness among immigrants from some country.
Yeah, so you don't want to, you cannot want a rising economy, because rising economy means a lot of successful people who paying a lot of taxes.
Yeah.
To have that in Canada, having consider how big Canada is, you have to have immigrants, and you cannot have immigrants just like you have to. There's immigration department, government structure in
Yeah.
government structure, immigration department or immigration
The
council.
immigration refugees.
Yeah, this the ministry. Yes, the word is ministry. So there's a huge ministry which has goals. They literally have goals in terms of how much people they want to
Canada is probably the only
import.
country I know of
No,
that wants to
no,
have immigrants.
You'll be so surprised. Every country has that, including Ukraine.
I don't think that European countries want that because the space is so congested.
You would be so surprised.
Really?
You would be so surprised because yeah. So any country, just take it as a rule. Any country wants a lot of quality immigrants. Quality means they're coming, they are settling, they're respecting culture, they're respecting
they learn the language,
they
and
learn
they
the
work
language,
and
they
taxes.
pay taxes. That's the most important thing. So Canada has a goals, and if you have goals, that's basically selling. So you have a sales goals. You have,
yeah.
and if you want to sell country to immigrants, you have to attract them. You have to give them
yeah, also
things.
true.
Otherwise, they're gonna come and ruin your country. And that's exactly what happened twice with Syrian conflict and which is the second one? Like two like at least two cases. Canada has not really successful cases of government approach towards
But also,
immigrants.
I've seen also like with Ukrainians, I've seen such bad cases of Ukrainian immigrants coming to Canada that I'm like, oh my god, I don't wanna be associated with them. This is embarrassment. I would never do this in my life. The same thing happened to me about I think it was immigrants from Syria. I might be wrong. I have been seeing cases when people come, they rely on government support in the beginning because they literally came as is, just like Ukrainians, and they have nothing to sell because it's all bombed or destroyed. But they started their own business. Their kids strive in school. They have perfect grades. They are like have all those awards from school and universities. They have their own business. They thrive. They pay taxes, and they're respected in their community. So I would say there are good examples in any population of immigrants, and there are bad examples in any population of immigrants.
But my point is that I don't know. I might be wrong, but from what I've heard, and also media, which could be misinformation, but as my observation that those two previous government programs for emergency immigration were considered to be a fail.
Really?
But for Ukrainian, for this CUAET program, specifically for this emergency act for Ukrainians, considered to be a huge success, just because they prolonged it twice before they closed it. For now, it's already closed. It's been closed for almost a year.
Since March.
Yeah, like half a year already. It's not available. So I have a bunch of friends Ukrainians who would think, and still at this point figuring out how to immigrate to Canada, just because they
You've
lost.
had 2 years. Come on.
Yeah,
you
they lost
their. Before.
Yeah, life can happen. Anything could have happened. Like they lived in Germany and they loved it there, but then something happened, and then they really were looking for another country, and that's the another very interesting thing. So you have Ukrainians everywhere right now. Like a lot of people left Ukraine, and they're settled all across the globe. But when you're talking to anyone in any country, most of them, like just recently, one of my colleagues who's looking into where to go, like people, they don't have kids, so it's not as difficult as for us, for example. But him and his wife, they're in Germany, but they're looking into where to go. He says that whenever he talks to anyone, any Ukrainian who moved to other countries, they are all more of like negative than positive about the country they were where they live. And I'm in his circle, the only Ukrainian who loves the country he moved to. I mean, it could be a matter of attitude, because when
100%.
we immigrated here, we decided we're gonna love it here. We're gonna, even if this country not gonna love us, we're gonna love it here, and that worked out for us 100%.
It was a choice. Like, you choose to like the place where you live, because back in Ukraine, did we have things we didn't like? 100% we did. And there is no such thing as perfect country. Every country has its ups and downs, like pros and cons.
100%. Yeah. So that too. And the last thing that we wanted to talk about, which is honestly very stupid. The fact that we need to talk about it sounds very crazy to me, but again, considering how many comments I get in my TikTok, or mostly TikTok, from Canadians, makes me think of how important it is to talk about it and name this as a top 3 misinformation about particularly Ukrainians, but I think it applies to any immigrant.
Any immigrant, yeah.
And it goes like this: anyone who is not a Canadian citizen cannot vote.
Yes.
As simple as that. So
having a passport doesn't mean you can vote.
Yeah, I even had a TikTok specifically about this.
No, wait. Actually, if you have a passport, you're a citizen, right?
Yeah. No. Yes, but not either way around. So hear me out.
Okay.
So I even made a TikTok where I said, if you don't have a Canadian passport, you cannot vote. And in my understanding, and probably you've heard and you would agree to what I've said.
Yeah.
But most of Canadians, as my impression from the comments, don't have Canadian passport.
Oh, you know why?
Yes.
Because, let me explain it. Yes. Because in Ukraine, we have 2 passports. Yes. One is our national internal passport, which is your equivalent of photo ID. So
actually, I think driver's license is that for you.
Yeah, or G1, like if you don't have a driver's license, like you drive.
Any photo
that's your
ID.
Photo ID. So a Ukrainian citizen has a passport that has your photo, your info.
It looks like the same thing, like little
like book. And when you go to vote, you take it with you because it's the highest level of
proof of ID.
Yeah, proof of identification. And then we have a travel passport, which is basically the same thing. That's still don't know passport. Why it's not the same thing.
Yeah. That's what you call passport. So
yes.
We call it international passport and internal passport.
Yes.
So we have 2. Yeah. Well,
which honestly, I don't know. Why don't they just merge them?
No. They're getting rid of it. Now we have a Ukrainian ID, which is card. It is the simple card. It has all your information, your picture.
Yeah, biometrics and everything.
So they eventually will get rid of the internal passport. And if you're not planning to travel, you don't need
a travel passport.
Yeah, you might not have a travel passport. So, and thinking about this internal passport, I was filming the whole TikTok about you are not being able to vote if you don't have a Canadian passport, and people were like, "Yes, I can."
That's true. Yes,
I don't have passport and I vote. So my point was that you have to be citizen in order to vote, and this is very surprising to me that. A lot of negative comments from people without probably a good civic education, I would say.
I think they just
Or
don't like we didn't pay attention to the fact that having internal and travel passport is
no,
different things.
but I
It
asked
doesn't
you,
mean
I
anything about.
specifically asked you before recording this podcast, did you know in Ukraine that in order to vote, you have to be a citizen of Ukraine? You were like, of course, yes.
Yeah.
No one else is voting for Ukraine except Ukrainian citizens. So,
Yeah.
but here, a lot of people were telling me that, some political party brought me here as, as they like, as a luggage, brought me here to this country to help them win the election.
Yeah.
And I'd say it's the same thing for US. Like right now they have a border crisis, all that kind of thing. Not getting into politics at all, but I keep thinking like, how do they connect the border crisis and
Voting.
all these illegal immigrants and everything that happens in this situation? Would that help anyone win elections? Like if it's not like which happened in Ukraine, I'll be talking about what I do know. In Ukraine, they when they had a massive voting fraud, they would take a physically a deceased person,
Passport information.
yeah, information, and have someone else vote as a
For them.
for them,
Like
yeah.
it's them.
If they're gonna do,
But that's
if,
scam and fraud. Like
yeah,
it's
if they mean that, so that some illegals gonna use
like fill in the gaps that were created
I
by
don't know,
deceased
but
people.
in general, being in country, us being country, put us as far as possible from voting at this point. So we're definitely not voting these elections, upcoming
Hopefully
elections.
next.
We don't even know when they are happening. Like this year, probably,
I
or next year. Yeah, probably
we
we're
should
voting.
learn probably.
Yeah, we're just starting to learn, just because it will be necessary for us the next elections, which gonna happen like in 4 years or 3 years.
I
do you
don't
have
know.
probably to get us citizenship, it would be necessary for us to know
Well,
that information.
And also to like I'll talk a bit about our status in Canada. So we came here as temporary residents with a visa, with a visitor visa and work permit. We lived here for a bit more than a year. We applied for permanent residence through humanitarian and compassionate pathway, which means that we show that, by the way, to qualify to apply for this program, we show that we have 4 kids. One of our children has a severe disability, which, if we would have applied through another immigration program, would be a reason for Canada. The Canadian government could have declined our application. But we showed that, look, even though we have 4 kids, even though we have a child with disability, look, we are paying our rent, we are working, we are paying taxes. So when we were applying for permanent residence, we were providing the government the criminal records. We were providing the government our tax, like the tax declarations or something that we pay to prove that we pay taxes, to show how much taxes we paid. We showed our employment records and our pay stubs.
Yeah.
We showed
everything, like, and every other like
full
organization,
disclosure.
like a school or whatever, wrote an email saying that if we are good
we got
candidates to be here.
We got letters of support from teachers, from coaches of our kids, from our friends in Canada, from our employer, and we showed the government, the country, that even though we have some circumstances that make it harder for us to be self-sustaining residents, we still do it. So we showed, look, we have a car, we are paying it. We have rent, we are paying it. We have no debts, we have no overdue payment. This is our credit score, this is our income, this is our balance in accounts, this is our agreements for utility bills, for rent, like everything.
That was a whole process, but the good news is that we got our permanent residency, which allowed us to move forward in our settlement and purchase a house. So
Yes.
we are all done here. Next step is in 2 years, probably within 2 years, like almost in 2 years, we will be applying for citizenship.
Citizenship.
Yeah.
Yes. But for now, as far as I know, permanent residents and citizens, the only difference legally is the right to vote.
Voting right. Yeah. So
Yes.
next time you hear someone says something about immigrants, whatever immigrants.
Voting?
Yeah, voting, just help them out, help them out.
No, if the immigrant is a citizen,
Yeah,
they
that
do
wouldn't
vote,
that wouldn't
right?
call. Actually, this is the interesting part. Today in the church, I asked.
I'm sorry, can you let our dog out?
You go. we we have a squeaking dog next door. So I talked to one of the families I met today at church, and I obviously saw that they're from Asia somewhere, and I was like, "Where are you from?" And I didn't think about. So I asked them, "Where are they from?" And I didn't mean, like, I didn't mean probably at this point. It's just a regular question. Where are you
Yeah.
from, right? But they're like, "Oh, we're from Ajax," which
Oh,
is,
that makes sense.
yeah, we're from Ajax, and I was like, oh yeah, and probably he realized that I initially didn't mean to ask where
The city,
he
but the
is.
nationality?
Yeah, probably more
Like the
nationality.
country?
He's like, oh, we're from Philippines, but we came here 2004, so I'm like.
That's like a
I'm
long time ago,
oh
yeah.
no, I was like, oh no, I was then like, is this
Are you
question
still an immigrant
where,
when you're a citizen?
yeah, so that's the question, actually. That's why I brought it up.
Well,
That
I think no,
you're
because
still,
otherwise, almost everyone except indigenous people would be immigrants.
but
But also, I hear a lot from Canadians that I'm an immigrant
Yeah,
in the ninth
that's what I-
generation
that's
or
what I
fourth
was gonna say,
generation or something
that
like that.
a lot of times we hear that even Canadians who were almost like born here, they identify as immigrants, or I come from immigrants family. So the word immigrant doesn't really have expiration date. It feels like. That's why I don't
Maybe.
know if when I'm gonna be a Canadian citizen and they're gonna ask me.
You're gonna stop
Probably because I'm white, people less likely will be asking, where are you from?
No, I think
Or it's just my accent.
I
Because
think it's like for me, I think it's totally okay to ask where you're from or maybe like what's
well,
your like background. I don't know. I often
how
when
do
I,
you answer a
when
question? Where are you from right now?
I'm from Ukraine.
You're from Ukraine.
Yeah, because I
Not
came here
from
from
the
Ukraine.
city, right?
Well, because I don't feel like I have the right to say that I'm
Okay,
Canadian.
when
I'm
you
not
go-
Canadian yet.
Question.
Like I'm a permanent resident, but I'm not a citizen.
All right. When you're gonna be citizen, how are you gonna answer this question? Where are you from? And she's like, I'm from Canada.
No, I will probably say that originally I was born in Ukraine, but
So
I've
they
been
will
living
be the
in
long
Canada.
story, right?
Yeah, it will always be the long
You know
story.
what? I just came.
Our kids will probably say that they're Canadian, and that's it.
Yeah, I came from States. I had a couple of business trips just recently, a couple of weeks ago, and it was just purely networking. So my job was there to meet people, to talk with business with them, and so on. So naturally, you start with where you're from. So I was always answering. I'm from Canada, and no one went any further.
No, like when you go to another country and you
Yeah.
get asked where you're from, like where you came from. I just came from Canada. I got off my
No,
plane, right?
but that's not what they're
But when
asking.
you're in Canada and where are you from,
I'm from-
you tell where you came
I'm from
to the-
Northumberland. I'm from GTA. Right? No,
Yeah,
like
so
this is
that's
so weird.
confusing.
It is so weird. Especially for someone who's never planned to be an immigrant. Right
It's
now,
very
we're
confusing,
like, who are we and where are we from? That's probably what we're gonna,
Self-identification.
talk about next episode. But
One
anyways,
of those.
yeah.
Another thing that I wanted to talk about, and I feel like I have no moral right to amend this topic, is that beyond the program that we like, beyond the government support that we got when we came from Canada in the form of work permit and that one-time payment, We were extremely blessed by the local community that we came to.
Yeah.
A little prehistory, I don't know how to say it, right? When we decided that we are coming to Canada, there were no
Should
benefits.
we hold on? Should we make the whole episode about it? Because this whole journey is starting from how we woke up to a war and how we ended up here.
It's gonna be 3 episodes. Okay, then I'm gonna make a teaser to the next episode. We were extremely blessed to come to the local community of Northumberland, where we, I don't know.
It will
It's
be
just
long.
a whole. It's
Yeah.
just a whole
Stay
episode.
tuned.
Stay tuned. We're gonna tell the whole story. It's just amazing, and it made our perception of Canada so much
Better.
better.
Yeah.